Mic check 7. Grace and peace to all. If you can hear me, please type a 7.
Mic check 7. Grace and peace to all.
All right. Bless up and one love. Shabbat Shalom to all the brothers and sisters. Welcome to another live lesson. As always, all praise and glory and honor to Jah, Yah, our Father, and His begotten Son, Jehoshua the Messiah, the Nazarite, that died for our sins, also respectively known as Yehoshua, Yahusha, Yahawashai, Yahshua, Yeshua, the Messiah, HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. Let us pray.
Let us pray. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us for our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us out of temptations, and deliver us from all evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and all the glory forever. In the authority and love of your Son, Jehoshua the Messiah, our Savior, we pray. So be it.
So be it. Praise Jah. Today's date is the 23rd day of the 12th month Adar for the Jubilee year 6224 from creation, equivalent to February 1st, 2025 AD, the 51st Sabbath and the second last Sabbath of the year. Next Sabbath is the last Sabbath of the true scriptural year. Here we are on our 28-year cycle, last week of the Jubilee year. And then we'll be getting into calendar 9, 6225 or 2025. As we look at our yearly almanac, here we are at the bottom right again, the 23rd. And I'll tell you, we went through the whole year. The year and time just flies by so quick. Reminding everyone that the equinoxes and solstices are always the middle of the true scriptural seasons. As you can see on your screen, we begin the year in February, and we'll talk about that today. And all of, like we said, either equinox or solstice are the middle. They're not the beginning of the scriptural seasons. They're the beginning of the astronomical seasons. As we look at our monthly almanac, again, here we are, the 23rd. This scripture, if you were to go read it in the Apocrypha, it'll let you know that it is the 23rd as well, and that the temple at that time was finished. One more Sabbath. Now, first of all, again, I want to welcome everyone and shalom to everyone out there. I hope all is well as we get through this year. When we want to talk about seasons, a lot of people kind of get fooled by the seasons. And, you want to see, if you hear it's spring, you just want to see the sun shining, flowers, all the birds and everything flying around. But when you understand how seasons begin, they begin from small, they get to a midpoint, and then they decrease. And even when they go into the other season, it's a transitional thing. It doesn't happen one day, and sometimes it's not even 1 week. Usually when you look at things, it's like the last 2 weeks of one season and the first 2 weeks of another season. And you'll see the signs of the season leaving and the new ones showing up in weather day to day that way. But the climate of Jazz Almanac is tied to the land of Israel. And I know when we think about, when I talk to people a lot about talk to people, hey, say, hey, February is the beginning of the true scriptural year. Many people, of course, snub their nose and say that's the middle of winter, and there's all this snow outside, it's cold, it's freezing, because people want to have an idea about how spring is. But again, as I said earlier on, you have to have an understanding of these true scriptural seasons. I mean, this website here, abibofgod.com, I speak about it a lot. They're in Israel. They go down there, I think, every December, and they stay there. I think maybe even November. They go there in November. They have places down there. I don't deal with them at all. They're Gentiles, and they don't deal with the Most High true scriptural calendar, but they keep tabs on the weather and the climate greatly, and provide pictures and all kind of graphs and information. And I have to tell you, when you see people know things and they witness it, they deny the true scriptural calendar. They even know, like right now, barley is showing up. Right now, I know people might say, what? Yeah, but they'll call it goat barley and wild barley and say it's not the real barley that matters because the soil isn't this and that. But everyone should know out there that barley is starting to grow in the first month of Abib. And especially when it's time to do the waving of the sheep, which is practically, the first week before March or the last week of February, the greens and the barley are there for those to, for if you had to wave the sheaf, because again, this is the beginning of the barley harvest. So as we begin this time period, it's a very important time of rains as the grains grow, the grains and the rains as they grow, and they'll end in April. So I just want to share a couple of pictures that I have gotten off of them recently for people who want to know how things are down there. I mean, here's the date. This is January 4th. That was a Saturday, taking a look here. And it's Sunday, January the 5th. This is barley. This is what they'll call it wild barley. These are live pictures on that day or the day before, they say. Again, take a look what's going on, and don't get stuck into your North American kind of blinders. All right. January 17th, as you can see. Wednesday, January the 29th. Some more trees and the flowers on the trees, the blooming, and you can see the ground here is growing, trees up here. Friday, January 31st, which was yesterday. Picture of them outside. Look, what do you see?
Wow, flowers.
Signs of spring. And this is why, if you, like I said before, if you just try to focus on just the weather where you are in North America, you get deceived. You got to learn things about Europe, learn things about Africa, even the Caribbean, where you have subtropical and tropical climate. It lets you know. And so when people, like I said, when they say to me, "Oh man, it's snow," it just lets me know they don't know what's going on. And yes, it may look that way, but the truth of the matter is the seasons are true. And this is the Sabbath, right? February 1st, they took this. Look what you see on the ground.
Wow, nice and green.
Yeah, nice and green. Some yellows, some purples. Look at that. And like I say, this information I'm getting, they're not like my friends where you think, hey, I'm scamming you and I'm tricking you and we're just, manipulating things here. Not at all. These are all, I just go to the website. I put it up there for you to check out yourself. You go to the calendar information it has, and they all do that. They've done it over the years, over probably maybe the last, for sure, 7 to 8 years. And I collected all the information just to ensure that when people want to use the argument about barley, that I know that they're mistaken about that. I mean, look at this. Wow, eh?
Wow.
I'm telling you, you would think that these things are made up, but it's all true. And so as we move along in this understanding, we want to move through quickly and kind of cover this important topic. We have 2 more Sabbaths for the year, and then we get right into a holy month, Abib, where we focus on Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the waving of the sheaf, the crucifixion and resurrection of the Messiah. So we'll be starting to get into that next week as we go into the new year. It's a good time for a renewal for those who know the true scriptural calendar, to attune yourself to God's true times. You keep the true Sabbath, you understand true weeks, the true seasons and true beginning of years. We're just lining up ourselves with the Most High, and of course being obedient and faithful to his words and to the words of his Messiah, his son, the Messiah. So we're going to get 7 reasons why ABIB February equals February and is the true beginning of the scriptural year. I've put out videos already, and if you haven't checked out my video I released just recently, it goes through the 12 months in 12 minutes. And so after this lesson, this will help when you go back now and you watch that video after this lesson, everything will be kind of much more smoother and understandable. All right, brother, let's go. Jah controls and changes the seasons.
Daniel chapter 2, verse 20. Daniel answered and said, "Blessed be the name of Jah forever and ever. For wisdom and might are his, and he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings, and he setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth in him."
So as we see here, Jah changes things. And even though I know that the sun, moon, and stars are for signs of these seasons, it's Jah that has his time frames that they operate within. He reveals secrets. And the more we're obedient to him, the more he gives his Holy Spirit, which helps us lead us to understanding his secrets, his mysteries, and the things that he wants to share with us through his word. So here's the 7 reasons why February is equal to the first month Abib. Go ahead, brother.
Number 1, the climate. Summer and winter seasons in the scriptures, and summer and winter in the land of Israel. 2, the set holy convocation dates of Leviticus chapter 23. 3, calendar sin and the shift of Jeroboam. 4, solar seasons and agricultural seasons. 5, the midsummer and midwinter definitions and references. 6, the ancient and modern understandings of the seasons. And 7, pagan equinox and solstice festivals in unity.
Sorry. So as you know, I've made a few videos on these individually out there, and as we're going to cover today greatly, number 1, it's also good to know that the definitions. You look up these definitions, midsummer, midwinter, and start checking out things. Right? Look at solar spring, solar seasons, solar summer. Don't just kind of be stuck in what you think you know already. Always examining yourself in the faith. I do the same thing, and I've always do that. Constantly that way. Of course, you stay firm in the things that you know, but in things that you might not be sure of, or you just heard it from other people, you got to definitely check it out to make sure that you're, under the, going in the right direction. But number 7, even though I won't talk about that a lot today, it'll be mentioned throughout. This is the thing. During the solstices and equinoxes, you'll find that there's many pagan festivals, and especially around the spring equinox and the winter solstice. But one thing you'll also notice is that those who keep a professed so-called Hebrew calendar, Israelite calendar, Jewish calendar, whatever it might be, they're always going to have their certain festivals line up with those equinoxes and solstices as well. So at Easter, or I should say the spring equinox, they're going to be celebrating their New Year, Easter, and the Aprilis Passover, I call it, the astronomical Passover, not the true Passover. And the same thing when it comes to the winter solstice, where they have Christmas, the Feast of Lights, and they lighting all kind of candles and lighting up the place. People are going to be keeping the Feast of Dedication and lighting up, their 9-candle menorah thing. So there's a lot of deception that way. But I want to move on. And again, I want to give a shout out to all that are tuning in right now. Brothers and sisters I can see out there. Shalom, Brother Johnny. Shalom, Sister Andrea. Shalom, Miss Monroe. Miss Carice D. Auntie Elma, who I know is out there as well. Shalom to you and happy Sabbath, as well as Brother Greg and Mama Greg as well. And if there's anyone else here, Sister Carice, that's right. Anyone else that I have missed, I can't see you, but Shalom Zion Assembly, and also those who are tuning in live.
Yeah, man. Shabbat shalom to all the brethren and sistren.
Okay. So this is a battle of two calendars, really, when it comes down to it: astronomical versus scriptural.
Revelation 12, verse 9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. The heathens have attempted to change the times and the seasons. Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until the time and times and the dividing of time.
So there should be no surprise that we're deceived. Everything is going to be coming down here deceived. A bunch of false religions, a bunch of false calendars, false ways of life, false philosophies, false promises of eternal life or life after death. We have to be very careful because the devil is here and his angels. They control things down here. So you think they're going to give you truth? The only truth that you're going to ever be able to try to seek is through the Most High's words. And even then, they even try to corrupt those words and translations and all kind of weird things. But the Most High will guide us through his word because his word stands firm and forever, even if they attempt to mistranslate certain things. But notice again, as David emphasized when he was reading it, the devil is thinking to change times, right? You can't do it. You can't change God's times. Like once he gives you a day, the sun and the moon, night and daylight, then you're gonna basically always have God's time. You can't change it. You can't change it completely. You're going to make people think that it's changed, starting
That's
things
right.
at the beginning when they're at the end, and in the middle when they shouldn't be. Brother, you want to add anything?
It's a good point. The devil thinks to change times and laws, and he's a master deceptionist. And so when he's deceiving the whole world, he's deceiving the whole world into thinking that things have changed from Jah's word, which they haven't. And he's a master deceptionist.
That's right. So as you know, Babylon is the enemy of the Most High, right? And I went through this chart many times, but Satan is the one who kind of is going to go against the devil, against the Most High. It's the devil going against the Most High, and he's the one who, through Nimrod first, changed up the way of worship, right? Changed up the calendar, brought in sun, moon, and star worship, worshiping human beings, worshiping self, and we know that Babel there at that time was going into wickedness, and the Most High had to come down and confuse their language so they can stop all of their, growing and working together to accomplish a name for themselves. So when we go through history, we see that the devil has controlled most of these empires from Egypt or Babylon right down through to Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, where we are today, and of course the future Greco-Roman Empire. So the Most High, has given all of these empires in the world to the devil. He's deceiving the whole world. And therefore, all of these nations and empires have false calendars. All of them. We're born into false calendars. And even though people think that they have found the true calendar with the lunar cycle, that's something that's been used and is still being used by almost all the pagan nations of the past and the ones of the present. So again, this is Babylon and its confusing calendars. But Jah teaches us differently.
Psalms chapter 90, verse 12. So teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom.
That's what we have to do, and that's what we have been doing here. And we constantly do these things because Jah is the one who's supposed to guide and teach us, and he will. If you trust in him, he'll just guide us. Count to Pentecost, do all the countings, all the things that we need to do. He's going to show us through his word. When we looking at everything, when I introduce right after the bat how Jah's almanac works, ABIB equals February. It has 12 months from ABIB, Ziph, Sivan, Judah, Dan, Elul, Ethan, and Bul, Kislev, Tebeth, Sabat, and Adar. Judah and Dan are months 4 and 5. One of them in the scriptures is Tammuz, and the other one is another pagan god, Iyar, I think it is. And so we put in the 4th and 5th children or sons of Israel that way. Otherwise, it's still numerical, but we call these months June and Dan. You can see the equivalency. Again, ABIB is February. Summer starts in May. August, which is the 7th month Ethanim, is autumn. November is Tibet, the 10th month, and that begins winter. There's 364 days in a common year. This is how it goes according to the true understanding of the scriptures. If you want to look at it in a different form, because today's a lot of chart reading, again, just seeing the equivalency of ABIB in February, when the latter rains begin. As I said before, the equinoxes are the middle of Jazz true seasons. So you have the mid-spring. It's mid-spring of Jazz seasons, but it's also the equinox. Summer starts in May. Autumn starts in August. The dry season is over in October, and then the early rains or winter starts in Tibet. And again, we have all of our solstices, everything graphed here for you to look at. We're going to be going over these things. You're going to see many charts that are going to be saying the same thing. So today is going to be a lot of chart reading because I think that's the best way to display time frames, calendar, and weather formats. Here's a reference.
From Smith's Bible Dictionary on page 23 under the word agriculture. The period denoted by the common scriptural expressions of the early and the latter rain, generally reaching from November to April, constituted the rainy season, and the remainder of the year as the dry season.
All right. So it's important to know, you're going to hear this all the time. Rain starts in November, winter starts in November, but this world starts at December 21st. And that's off, right? That's off almost 40-something days, maybe 44 to 45 days, depending on, when that solstice actually occurs. But here's what I want to show today. As we're getting through these things, and you know that you're going to see as great proof that November is the beginning of winter and May is the beginning of summer, and they're both 6 months long. What this leads us down to is that once we know where these two main seasons of the scriptures start, it will let us know when spring and autumn are. And so this is why we emphasize a lot the summer and winter, because that's what's mentioned in the scriptures greatly. And even though these are two seasons of 6 months each, when you divide, those one season of 6 months, you can divide into 3 months and 3 months, and the other season into 3 and 3 months. And that'll help us to understand all 4 seasons, when they start and begin. So this information cannot be denied at all. I want to stamp that. If anybody tries to say it's not February and it's going to be the equinox, all right, no problem. Maybe they don't know, but they won't be able to learn this information here, and neither will you. You'll be strengthened to know from your Holy Bible that everything is according to the land of Israel perfectly, and that just seasons is New Year begins in February, summer begins in May, autumn begins in August, and winter begins in November.
That's right. And this reference is a great reference. And the main takeaway, brothers and sisters, is to understand that the rainy season in the land of Israel, which is also known as the early and the latter rains, goes from November to April, as Brother Sean said, and it's a 6-month period. And when it says the remainder of the year is known as the dry season, you can automatically now see that the rest of the year of the 6 months is known as the dry season, which we also call summer.
That's right. Looking at how we have it again, everything is color-coded in all of our charts. So the latter rains begin in February. And, I've been asked this question many times. Why is it called the latter rains and it's in the first month? For the main part it's called the latter rains because it's the last 3 months of the 6-month rainy season. And the rainy season, though, begins in November and lasts for 6 months. So that's why it's called the latter rains, because that last 3 months carries over and it goes into the first 3 months of the beginning of the year. I know it would make sense to you to say, hey, well, wouldn't the rains in the beginning of the year be called the early rains, and then you can call the ones in winter the latter rains? But then you'd have this 6-month gap. So it's really these after the summer season, the first rains are the first 3 months and the latter rains are the last 3 months. Looking at, again, just scriptural chart from ABIB, right down to Adar, we have our 3-month latter rain or spring rain season. we have the 3-month summer or early rain season, the 3-month autumn or latter summer season, and the 3-month early rains or winter season. In ABIB, this first month, we have Passover and unleavened bread and the waving of the sheaf in the first month. ABIB is equal to February. And in Sivan, the 3rd month, we have the Feast of Weeks, also called First Fruits or Pentecost in the 3rd month. Sivan equals April. The 7th month brings in the autumn feasts, where we have trumpets, atonement, tabernacles, and the 8th day. And there again in the 7th month, Ethanim equals August. And the Feast of Dedication is in the 9th month, Kislev equals October. And that's right here in the yellow. And this 8-day feast starts on the first day of the week, and it carries over to the following first day of the week, which is the first day of the 10th month, or the beginning of winter. Go ahead, brother.
Any calendars that use the equinoxes and solstices as the beginning of seasons are in error. Any calendar that uses the solar system timeframes as the foundation for time reckoning are also in error. Any calendar that use either the lunar months, lunar Sabbaths, and lunar feasts are in error.
That's right. So all of these festivals, doesn't matter which calendars, which one starts, which calendar you use. If it begins with anything dealing with the spring equinox, it's in error. So that includes the calendar of Enoch, the so-called calendar of Jubilee that people are promoting, the Zadok calendar, the lunar calendar, the lunar Sabbath calendar, the lunisolar calendar, the Mazareth calendar. It doesn't matter which one. They're all based upon the pagan understanding of the vernal equinox, which was put into place by Constantine in the Council of Nicaea. So if you have a calendar that's using that, I'm just saying it's clearly going to be stand out as false, especially after you have the understanding of this lesson today. So again, no lunar calendars, no lunar Sabbaths, no Enoch. You notice that the Enoch seasons begin also with the equinoxes. Those are really the midpoints. Scripture.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 33, verse 7. Why doth one day excel another, when as all the light of every day in the year is of the sun? By the knowledge of Jah they were distinguished, and he altered seasons and feasts. Some of them hath he made high days and hallowed them, and some of them hath he made ordinary days.
So once again, as we look at this verse here, we know that it's the Most High's knowledge that he's altering his seasons and his feasts. He's distinguishing these things. He never even said, he said all the light of every day is of the sun, but he never said that he uses the moon for feasts or anything. He says some of them he makes high and some of them he makes ordinary. So he has this prerogative, and this is why we follow him. We don't follow the sun, moon, and stars. The children of Israel were beaten badly and kicked out of the land greatly for worshiping the sun, moon, and stars. It's been a great plague that has plagued Israel up until this day. They still love lunar calendars and looking at the moon and the sun and want to follow those astronomical ways that the Most High had given to the pagan nations. He separated his people from those pagan nations, and none of the festivals that the Most High keeps on his scriptural calendar are geared around the equinoxes or solstices. That's, again, by Jah's design, and we can see, again, who is who when it comes to worshiping Jah in spirit and truth. This doesn't, when I say these words, I'm not trying to say I'm righteous or anything of that nature, but in terms of doctrine and of keeping the true holy festivals at the right time, this is what I'm talking about. And may the Most High have mercy on all of us. But if we know we can get it right, we must get it right. And we have it right. And we feel very confident in our research over the last 28 years that we can show and affirm very clearly, without a doubt, that these are the true seasons that we speak of.
Mm-hmm. And this is an important scriptural fact to understand, brothers and sisters, because Jah is the one that distinguishes days, and he's the one that lets us know what days of the year are holy and what days of the week are not, right? There's no sun, moon, or stars that dictates to us what days are holy. It's Jah's words.
That's right. Scripture.
Genesis 1 verse 14. And Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.
So quickly, there's no mention of months, no mention of weeks or Sabbath, and no mention of holy days. I'll say this, as I say all the time, many people say that when it says seasons, and I've even seen translations of the Bible where it says holy days or special days. But this moed here is referring to the regular appointed seasons, summer, winter, the agricultural seasons, seed time and harvest. Those are the seasons, not the holy days. He didn't put those holy days into play at the beginning of creation. He gave his holy days to Israel when he made them a nation. And we can see that these seasons aren't referring to holy days just because when we look at when Noah came out of the ark, we still see the same thing. The Most High talking about his calendar continuing on.
Genesis chapter 8, verse 22. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease.
So you see here, Jah's making two seasons make one great season called a year. I mean, when we look at it, right? Winter, the rainy season, and summer, the dry season, that's a year. The cold, cloudy skies, also part of the heat and the hot, clear skies together, they're making a year. Everything here, when it works together, it makes a year. And you'll also notice that when it comes to the winter and the cold, it's also referring to the dark time and the nighttime. So here what you see on your screen are the words that we see from here, and also words that we can see in Genesis chapter 1 when it's speaking about the first day of creation. In that first day of creation, we have all the words we need for a 24-hour day. We have evening, darkness, night, and then we have light, day, and morning, which make a complete 24-hour day. Same thing, though, as these seasons. They make a complete year as well. I mean, we see in scriptures that it's likened sometimes as a day to a year, right?
That's right.
Did you want to say anything before I move on, brother?
No, these are excellent charts.
All right. Yeah, so take a look how this united duality works. So basically, there's 4 different seasonal years. I mean, there might be others, especially if you go back in ancient times. And what I mean by that is beginnings of years and seasons that way. There are, when it comes to this chart here, I want you to take a look. There's scriptural seasons that we're promoting. There's solar seasons, the meteorological seasons, and the astronomical seasons. And then just scriptural seasons, and here we have spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Just scriptural seasons, for this year, the new year begins February 9th, or that's when spring starts, May 9th, August 9th, November 9th. For the true solar seasons as well, they go by the solar seasons. And some of these are both early February 5th, May 5th, August 5th, November 5th. And I'll say this as well. Sometimes throughout the year, throughout the 28-year cycle, of course, everything will match up. February 1st will one time match up with ABIB 1. February 5th also will be ABIB 5. All of these things will match up because the astronomical calendar, the Gregorian calendar, wanders and moves back and forth. But notice again where these seasons are, and you can verify these things yourself as well. Where was that? Here we go. Then we have our meteorological seasons. They begin March 1st, June 1st, September 1st, December 1st. Then the astronomical seasons, which all the world uses, and everybody, especially if you're using lunar solar calendars or any calendars that deal with the moon, they're going to deal with the March vernal equinox, March 20th to 21st, the summer solstice. You see the date there. September equinox or the autumn equinox, and the December winter solstice as well. These are the false satanic astronomical beginning of seasons that has deceived most people in the world with calendars. Even the Gregorian calendar is actually based around the time frames of those seasons. Even though they don't start spring, they don't start the beginning of their year at the spring equinox, but they do start their season that way. They just move January over the beginning of the year to January as a part of a deception, and as well to deal with an economical type of understanding of the year. Meaning they're doing it. It was a good way for them to start counting their money and also exacting their money.
This chart is a good comparison because you can see similarities between scriptural seasons and the solar seasons. And the solar seasons are more in line with the true scriptural seasons than the meteorological or astronomical.
That's right. So everything again that you're seeing, and as well said, brother, everything that you're seeing are facts. This is how it goes, but it's been hidden. Nobody has seen it, and we've been deceived and brainwashed from we're children. It's like when you're a child, you go into your classroom, we see a globe, That brainwashes you right off the bat. And then when they teach you what spring, summer, autumn, and winter is, you got to think about these things. They're the ones that tell you these things. I work in a school. And so I know that, teaching the days of the week and the calendars of the year and the seasons of the year are very, very important to us, in North America, Europe, in the education system that way. And I can tell you that they forward, the astronomical seasons when they're very young. You sing songs about them, you watch videos about them. And this might have happened to you as well. But it lets me know that, hey, if this is what they're doing, and they've always been doing it, we've all been brainwashed. I mean, you try to tell somebody that the earth is not round, they're going to be freaking out on you and calling you foolish because you believe that the earth is a plane and it's not a globe. Mm-hmm. But again, this is how deep the brainwashing goes. We've been brainwashed to think that these times are the beginning of the true seasons, so we can't see Jah's calendar.
That's right. And we just read in Revelation that Satan deceives the whole world. So when we're born into deception. Most of the things that they tell us which is true in the world is actually false.
That's right.
We grow up believing these things because we're deceived.
That's right.
When the devil thinks to change times and laws, when they teach us, when they say that the beginning of the year is, we are ending up believing a lie, and it's not true.
Exactly. So we read this already, while the earth remains, but this here is what I'm showing you now. There's two calendars. I'm going to show you a little bit about what the other calendars, and then we're going to compare them. When I say calendars, let's call them seasons or years, seasonal years. We have Jah's scriptural year, and then we're going to have the astronomical year calendar. Now, the meteorological year is not used by many in the world, but still people do use it and govern spring is starting on March 1st. There are some calendars that do that. But you'll notice here, this is from the Enoch calendar, and when I did a little bit of research and got some charts from them to see what's going on, when it says seed time, harvest, cold and heat, and winter and summer, look what they put here. They said seed time is autumn or the autumn equinox. They say harvest is the spring equinox, winter is the winter solstice, and summer is the summer solstice. So right off the bat, I know that this is a part of the deception.
Yep.
Right? It's part of the deception, and it creeps into calendars and time frames, because all the devil wants to do is to make sure that we don't worship the Most High at the right times. This is why there's been an attack against the 7-day Sabbath, whether you keep it or not, and whether it's been changed to the Lord's Day for Sunday, or you want to keep half of a Sabbath, like 12-hour Sabbath, or you even want to start it, in the middle of the Sabbath, starting at the light. All of this attack by the devil has been great on Jah's holy days. And so as long as he keeps you on a calendar that doesn't keep the true festivals, but makes you think that you're keeping Passover at the right time, that's what, he's all about. But again, this is called deception. And when you look at this, on a chart, this is, again, the astronomical seasons, right? Let's start for them. This is spring, the beginning of the year, which includes March, April, and May. And and it starts right from here, from the spring equinox. That's the beginning in the green. Then the summer solstice is in the reddish pink. And then the September equinox in the orange. And we have, just at the tip here, we're getting into the December solstice, which deals with, winter, so-called winter that we keep over here. So this is how it goes. But remember, we said that true beginning of the year starts in February, but they have February in winter. And that's why when people hear it's February, like we say, hey, we keep, Passover in February, they look at this and this understanding comes up and it says, what? That's winter time. What are you talking about? But here's the trick. On these astronomical calendars and the lunar solar calendars, they make February the last month of the year, when February is really truly the first month of the year. And this is the devil's design again. If you know anything about what we teach, he's always splicing things in the beginning and the end and in the middle. And this is what's happened. They've made February, which is to be the first, they've turned it into the last. And that's one of the great deceptions. And again, we'll prove it today. Bless up, Sister Princess Trinidad, one love.
Shalom.
Shalom to all others who have come in. Okay. So now that we know this and we're sharing this information, this is up top is Jah's true almanac, how we're proving it. So January would be the 12th month. And then we have our seasons in color coded from February to April, as we learned about those rainy seasons, right? It starts from November, goes to the end of April for 6 months. May is the beginning of summer. We have the equinoxes and solstices in the red. Okay, so this is how jazz year, the last month is 12. Now, this is how it works with the satanic astronomical calendar, or what you call Jeroboam's calendar. So this is the beginning of the astral year. They make it March because they wanted to line up with the equinox. The vernal equinox is a very, very big pagan invention. Well, even though it's an observation, it's a pagan observation that way, not an invention. But you can see that they're beginning the year in the middle of jazz year, or their season in the middle of jazz season. And as it goes over, they start their seasons with the solstice. Summer starts with the June solstice. Autumn starts with their September equinox, and the winter begins with the December solstice, which we teach is wrong. Because if you take a look, comparing it, it's the middle, it's the middle, it's the middle. So when we have month 2, they're beginning month 1. And when we have month 8, they're having month 7. And what happens in month 7, in their month 7, they keep the Feast of Tabernacles, but it's really month 8. But this is a part of Jeroboam's calendar shift. He shifted everything over by 1 month to line up, and it's still here today. We'll hopefully get a chance to talk about that and show a couple of verses. But this chart here, again, a very good chart for you to visualize what we're saying the difference is between the true seasons and the false seasons. Brother Java, do you want to add anything here?
Yes, well, I hope the brothers and sisters can see how Sean has laid out the chart, that the upper part of the chart are the true seasons.
Sorry.
The true seasons showing the true beginning of spring, summer, autumn, and winter for 12 months. And then the lower part is the false astronomical beginning of the seasons, which the majority of Hebrew Israelite groups use, beginning in March. And so I hope that you can see that this chart displays the difference between the true beginning of seasons and the false astronomical beginning of seasons.
That's right. And remember, we're going to prove today why it should be, why, especially in particular, we're talking about summer and winter, why May is the beginning of summer and October is the last month of summer, and why November is the beginning of the rainy season, and why April is the last month of the rainy season. That's why we have to know where the scriptures let us know where summer and winter is. We line it up with Israel, and then we're going to get an understanding. So again, just looking at it from a different angle, same kind of chart like you see here, but now it's just more vertical. ABIB is starting up here. This is the mid-spring, and this is when they have their Nisan, their fake ABIB, their spring equinox, again, and then going down. You can see that every time it's in the yellow, that's just middle of the seasons, and that's when they begin their seasons. Same chart, just a different format. Looking at the astronomical seasons and the lunar months on their fakeness. This is both of them, but you notice in Nisan, ABIB, which is either March or April. And this is a thing. When it comes down to also getting into calendar information, it's really hard to pinpoint because for them, because the devil is so shifty, you know, we know that March is when they begin their year, but then their Passover season could be in late March, or it could be 2 weeks into April. And this is how, again, it's their shiftiness. So you have to really pay attention to what's going on. And this chart here kind of displays that, because this is the information. They say, you know, their Nisan could be March or April, but it's the new moon around the spring equinox. And they can keep the Passover along with their Easter around that time. But usually the Passover goes into April, as you may know. And that's where their Easter is. And so again, just looking at this, and this is that where I said month number 4 was, we put as Judah. They have Tammuz. Tammuz is a pagan god. So again, I'm going to move on. This is their astronomical folly. And this is where, you know, most people are keeping these festivals, Hanukkah or Feast of Dedication. They keep it around Christmas, right? Okay. This is another chart. This is just seasons and months. The climate, we've been used to this already. We know the latter rains, summer. We've seen that. We see the holy festivals also in ABIB February. We have Passover and the Sheaf. The Passover of the second month is in March. Feast of Weeks or Pentecost is in the third month, Sivan. There's no feasts in May, and there's no feasts in this month. None here. Trumpets begins in August. Ethanim, Trumpets, Atonement, Tabernacles. No feast at the September equinox. And then we have the 8th day dedication, and we finish off the 12th month of Dar. But now when we have the astronomical season, then we're lining it up. So here's our mid-spring. We follow it over here. This is their new year. And also they'll do their Passover and their Pishak, dealing with, again, the March equinox. They keep their first fruits in May, and sometimes their first fruits even goes to June. Yeah, it does.
Wow.
It does, into almost the second week of June. So you notice that, again, we don't have no festivals. Just, when we have a Passover, there's nothing there. Outside of the Passover, the second month, when they begin their things, just not lined up with anything. Here's mid-autumn. We have no feast in this month, but this is when they keep their trumpets, Sukkot or Yom Kippur. This is when Jeroboam keeps his false tabernacles. They make it seem like it's the 7th, but following along across, truly it's the 8th. So this here is another chart as we go through. And if you're watching in the future or you get a chance to watch this again, I would advise you to screenshot this and study it. Go ahead, brother.
The climate in Jerusalem is usually very predictable. There are 2 distinct seasons in the center of Israel, winter and summer. Psalms chapter 74, verse 17 says, "Thou hast set all the borders of the earth. Thou hast made summer and winter." So summer begins from May to October, and winter begins from November to April.
And this is how it is. I'm making it very clear, spelling it out today, what we're doing. And the reason why I focus on these, the verses with summer and winter, because, again, you don't see the word autumn in the scripture, but you might see it as ingathering, right? Or the summer fruits harvest, the end of the harvest, because harvest can refer to the spring harvest in the beginning, or it can be referring to the autumn harvest in the end. It's just in context when you read, but everything is divided by summer and winter. And again, notice summer begins from May to October. Go ahead, brother.
As a day is likened to a year, even so a year has the dark cold season of winter, and the light hot season of summer. Just like an actual 24-hour day of dark cool night season and the light warm daytime. The seasons of winter and summer symbolize both darkness and light. So 1 year or night and light equals 1 day. The 6-month summer season is a time of much light compared to the darkness. The 6-month winter season is a time when the darkness is much more compared to the light season.
So the reason why I brought this up again, because, when people want to talk about what a day is, and a day should only be the light part of the day, and you'll hear people talk about that a lot. It's only 12 hours. He says that he called the light day, and that's why you guys are mixing it up, not knowing that the word day has various definitions, especially when it comes to context. They could, just like how it is in English, can be one period, it could be a year. But in the scripture, we see that a day can be likened to a year. And this is why I kind of use this understanding to bring it out. If you look at this simple chart, again, we have 1 year. It could almost be like a day as well. The year begins as we see, right here at the spring. We go forth 3 months. We get to summer, the daylight comes. Then we have the middle of the day, which would be autumn. And then the daylight goes into, it fades away, so to speak. And we go into the evening. And then we can see that the evening begins with the winter. Spring again being the middle of winter, or the middle of the night as well. So all I'm doing with this understanding here is confirming that a 24-hour day and a year can kind of match. You can't have a year with just summer, the light season, and you can't have a 24-hour day with just the light season either. And that's really just a simple illustration I wanted to bring out.
And that's a good comparison, and I hope the brothers and sisters understand Just like a 24-hour day has a period of dark and night, so a year also has two periods of light and darkness. And that light period is the summertime of 6 months. And then the dark period where the sun has less solar energy during the winter time, that's the dark period. And so the winter time that we're currently in now is part of that dark period of the year for 6 months. So
That's
6
right.
plus 6 is 12. And so that's how we're comparing one 24-hour day to 1 year. I hope
That's
that makes
right.
sense.
Yeah, man. Night and day. So when we look at a year, it's divided up into 4 months. We have the 3-month latter rain season, as I said. The equinoxes and solstices are the middle of the seasons, February, March, and April. Then we go to May, June, July. May is the beginning of summer where it never rains. The summer solstice is the middle. Then we go to autumn, Ethanim, Bul, Kislew, right? I gotta learn to spell autumn with an N, even though the N shouldn't even be there. But anyways,
Yes.
the 3-month early rains or winter rain season has the midwinter solstice. We have the mid-autumn equinox. And again, when we're looking at this, we can see very clearly that the beginning of the true seasons as opposed to the beginning of the astronomical seasons. It's different, right? When we look at them side by side, here's the 6-month winter rain season, right? It does start from November, which is the 10th month. It goes through until the end of Sivan, which is April. April showers bring May flowers. It's divided into two: the early rains from November till end of January, and then the latter rains from February or ABIB through to Sivan, April. Then we have our summer season of 6 months as well, from May through to October. The early summer is what we call early summer. We call it as from May until the end of July. Then we have autumn or latter summer, as it says there, from August until the end of October. So again, just different ways of looking at the season so you can get a good idea of this is how distinct it is in the land of Israel and in subtropical climates. Very distinct, just like this, where it'll rain for this time period. Not every single day it rains, but this is when the rains and the clouds and the coldness comes in. And then in the summer, it never rains. Never.
That's why they call it the dry season. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 17, in the Apocrypha. For he hath given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely, to know how the world was, and the operation of the elements, the beginning, ending, and midst of the times, the alterations of the turning of the sun and the change of seasons, the circuits of years, and the positions of stars.
This information is we know these things as well. Many other people may know it, but when it comes to calendars, right? And even though it's Solomon, the operation of the elements and knowing how the world was made deals specifically with the first day of creation, right? And then going on within creation week. And this is why we always teach greatly that the first day of creation is very important to understand. Most people we find teach it, in an error. We teach that greatly, that the Most High, when he made the heaven and the earth, the only thing that he formed and made that day in terms of perfection was his heaven, his throne in darkness. It says that the earth was not shaped or materialized, so to speak. It was unformed material and matter submerged in waters. So we see that there's waters there, there's earth there. He said, let there be light. And also his spirit was present, which are basically what you would call the 4 elements. And from those 4 elements, that they make up every single thing that is in the rest of the universe. I mean, think about it. The lights have to be made with heat, right? Fire is heat, symbolic of heat and light. And that's what the sun, moon, and stars are made of. They're lights, whether they're a lesser light and greater lights. We see also that the waters were there present. Of course, waters are present throughout time. The earth material, matter, particles, that was formed later on day 3 when he made the mountains and the land and all of that. And of course, again, wind, his spirit in the presence of heaven. His spirit is in the hierarchy of heaven where his throne is, and also the spirit, the ruach of wind, is in the lower heavens as well. Jah is great how he does things. And then the beginning, ending, and midst of the times, definitely dealing with creation that began in the year 4199 BC, year one of creation, and then knowing the middle of the times when the Messiah was born, and then knowing where we are in chronological time frames, and alterations and turnings of the sun. So when we talk about the time of the solar seasons, that's important to know as well. And many people might right now, due to science, can know these things about the alterations and turning of the sun. One thing I'd like to know in the scripture is that the sun does the moving. It's the same thing that when you look outside, you see the sun, moon, and stars move around, but people will tell you that it's the earth spinning and all them stuff, Dan. Boy, we were all part of that deception one time, you know what I mean? But that's all a lie. The earth doesn't move. And even if it was a globe, it still wouldn't be moving. The earth is firm and still. The sun, moon, and stars move around. And the Most High changes the seasons, and they're part of the signs of those seasons. And notice also in verse 19, it talks about the circuits of years. That's very important when you understand the 28-year cycle, the sabbatical year cycle, the 7,000-year cycle, the 700-year cycle, the 70-year cycle, the Jubilee year cycle. All these are circuits. So I can call it the 28-year circuit, the Jubilee circuit. The word circuit means cycle. And so we know these things. And the position of stars, we might kind of understand them, but we don't need to know those things in any understanding of observation for us. But they do have a governing of they're in a certain position during the seasons. But we don't utilize that. But if you want to utilize the position of the stars, that's where you get your understanding of the equinox and solstices from, because those are astronomical or star. Astro means star. Those are star observations. Anything you want to add here, brother?
Well, you made a good point and a thorough understanding of this verse. Main thing in verse 17, when Solomon says to know how the world was made, it's very important to know Genesis and how the world was made. If you get that wrong right from verse 1, the whole calendar gets thrown off. So it's very important to believe how Jah created the world. And as Brother Sean said in that first verse, when Jah said, made the heaven and the earth, that heaven is not the sky, and that heaven is not where the sun, moon, and stars are. That heaven was the heavenly abode where Jah sets his throne. And
That's
of
right.
course, that only makes sense. Jah's going to start with where he's going to dwell and make his heavenly abode first.
That's right, brother. Well said. And when he did that, he also did it in darkness. That's one thing for us to know. He did these things in darkness. He was working for, I would say, 12 hours in darkness. And then at the 12th hour, and the 12th hour, he said, let there be light. And that began the 12-hour daylight cycle. I mean, it seems perfect to me. I know it seems so simple, but that's how we view Jah as, beginnings. Go ahead, brother.
Summer in Jerusalem runs from May to October, as we've been saying. The one sure thing about this time of year is that it will not rain.
That's right. And here's a 20-second video just for that confirmation.
If you are planning on coming to Israel in summer, which is when most people visit Israel, this video is going to be very helpful. Summer in Israel starts in May and ends in October. You can expect temperature of over 30 degrees Celsius, around 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and zero rain.
Whoa, you see zero rain, it says, right?
Zero rain, yeah.
I mean, summer's a drought, isn't it?
That's right. And we will read that in Psalms 32, verse 4. It says, for day and night thy hand was heavy upon me. My moisture is turned into the drought of summer.
That's right. So we see that summer is a time of no rain from May to the end of to October. It's in the last maybe 2 weeks of October that you get the first sign of rains, the first day or two, and then it kicks up in November officially. So this is good to know. It's letting you know that May, right, is that time. So what we're going to have to do is, if we're going through this information, okay, we got all the, the land information, we got the climate, we know what's going on, but where does the Bible prove these things? And again, this is where we're going to get to, because I think that's what's going to confirm all of this understanding.
That's right.
So we see above, and remember, there's many cities and areas of Israel, and in Tel Aviv, we have here, right beginning from, we see this is April, and then the beginning from May when the temperature is starting to go up. But we also see that there's no rain here, right? No rain. And then at the end of October, we get that little first day or two of rain. But notice that it's throughout Israel. This is all throughout all the various cities. Here's Jerusalem. May until end of October, there's no rain, or till October. We can see this through the other cities around Jerusalem as well. Haifa, Safed, and Beersheba. All of these understandings, they say the same thing. So again, what we're showing is that the summer season begins from May, goes through to October, according to the Israel land of climate and according to scripture. And we see that the rainy season begins in November, and it goes for 6 months as well. November, December, January, February, March, and the trickle of April here. And that's everywhere.
So you can see how these statistics can be proven and verified yourself. And it's irrefutable evidence of when the true seasons begin. And so we have to get our minds out of this North American and Western way of thinking about when the seasons begin and get in tune with the land of Israel, because the land of Israel is in tune with Jah's almanac and his perfect calendar.
That's right, brother. Well said. Go ahead, brother.
The 6-month summer season. The 6-month summer season begins in the 4th month that we call Judah, which is also equivalent to May, and ends 6 months later in the 9th month, Kislev, which we know is October. It's a total of 6 months. The first 3 months are called summer or early summer. Early summer begins in the 4th month, Judah, which is equivalent to the month of May, and ends in the 6th month, Elul, which is equivalent to the month July. It's a total of 3 months. The last 3 months are called autumn or latter summer. Autumn or latter summer begins in the 7th month, Ethanim, which is equivalent to August, and ends in the 9th month, Kislev, which is equivalent to October. A total of 3 months.
So this is self-explained, as you can see. And again, another chart just to look at these things. Again, we're looking at this first 3 months of summer, early summer from May. So we look at May here in the red, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Then we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months of also rains. It's called the early rains because it's the first rains after the summer. And you can see in this chart, there's lots of other comments and information regarding Jah's Almanac. Again, looking at some more things in Jerusalem, right? Starting from May through to October. From May through to October, we see that there's, when it talks about days of rain, barely anything. And then November, it begins up. November it begins, it's in the yellow. So we have the early rains in the yellow, and we have the latter rains in the orange. The early rains here in the yellow, and then the latter rains in the orange. And of course, summer. When we look at the summer 6-month season all by itself, again, from Judah till the 9th month, divided into 2. We have the first 3 months from Judah to May. Look where the solstice is, again, in the middle. That's when the seasons for those who are keeping the false calendars begin. We have the latter summer or autumn for 3 months with the autumn equinox. All right. So when we just look at these seasons, months, and days of the year, we have the second rains beginning, we have summer, then we have the first rains. We have the spring rains that deal with the second rains. The winter rains deal with the first rains as well. We have our months from 1 to 12. We have the amount of days in each month. And everything totals 364 days. We count days also for the seasons, as you can see, 89, 92, 92, and 91.
Just a reminder, brothers and sisters, to take screenshots of these charts, because when you study them on your own time, it'll help to solidify the truths of what Brother Sean is saying here.
That's right. Getting a good understanding as you move through things. Spring could begin the first week of February, the first week of May, the first week of autumn, the first week of winter. In terms of the rest of the seasons, you got a good understanding of what's going on through here. And this is how it's supposed to be. January is always the coldest month of the year in all countries. So when we look at this climate in Israel month by month, we've did our homework. We understand what's going on. And these are the transitions. So going from January or from winter to spring, you can read the underline, brother.
January, the coldest month of the year in Israel, is also the wettest month. 76% of the time,
just go from the
daily sunshine lasts between 6 hours and 7 hours in most of the country.
During those, yep. And read, okay, now let's go to February.
February is a mild winter month in Israel, with average temperatures in the zone of 43 degrees Fahrenheit or 6.1 degrees Celsius, all the way to 22.8 degrees Celsius. Much of Israel, except for the southern parts of the Negev Desert, receives 101.6 millimeters to 127 millimeters of rain, with at least 10 wet days in the month. The daily sunshine improves to 7 hours and the daylight to 11.5 hours.
Okay. So now when it's letting us know that it's a mild winter month, remember, we're talking about that 6-month winter season. So yes, you can say February is in winter. You can say March is in winter, and you can say April is in winter, because winter and April, winter means rains. Once you know that winter means rains and not just snow, it'll help you understand. So this is the transition going from the end of the year to the beginning of the year. Then we're going to have the transition from the end of spring into summer. You can read up top, brother.
April is sunny in Israel, with at least 9 hours of daily sunshine and clear skies for 85% of the time. The precipitation registers below 25.4 millimeters, even in the wettest region of the north and west.
Yep, that's perfect. And we don't have to worry about the Easter holidays, but that's when they keep Easter, of course, in April. And then let's go into the summer. Watch the distinction between April and now weather in May.
The weather in May. May is dry and sunny in Israel. Dry and sunny, with 11 hours of bright sunshine and 14 hours of daylight. The precipitation is generally absent in Israel by mid-May, and most regions are hot and dry. Expect the temperatures to rise significantly by the end of the spring season in May in Israel.
All right. See that? So the rising by the end of the spring season, what? In May. So the end of spring is in May. May's the beginning of summer, right?
That's right.
So again, just look using this information before we get to the scriptures. Now the transition from summer into autumn. So summer is the 6-month Elul here, and then autumn, Ethanim. We don't have to read much here because there's not much to say. They're both hot. They're both the hottest months of the year, July and August, because they're the middle months. Month 6 and month 7 are the middle of 12. Right? So they're both dry and hot, but I just wanted to put it up there so you can know the transitional periods. And if you wanted to read more information about daylights, you can get that information. And then when we're going from autumn, the 9th month, into November, and we can see, I'm going to read this here for a quick second. Okay, Dave?
Yeah.
October is warm to hot at the end of the summer in Israel. See, it's the end of the summer, right? October. Right? The average temperature is so on and so forth. October signals the arrival of what? Wet days, which bring up to 35.6 millimeters of rainfall on the west coast. So when we're looking at this, Again, October is when it just starts. It says the autumn is evident mostly in the areas under the Mediterranean influence in the west. Expect fair weather on both the western and southern coasts with a drop of humidity. October is a nice time to visit Israel in the autumn, right? So you notice that again, they're calling October autumn as well. Now, for weather in November, the 10th month, November has moderate conditions in Israel with warm days and cold nights. The average temperature registers the wide range of 12 degrees to 27. As the heat tapers gradually, Jerusalem and Tel Aviv see many tourists. The daily sunshine is there. Oh, here we go. The precipitation is to the tune of 50 to 76 millimeters in most regions, except the south. Nights are cold in the highlands and deserts. Evenings ask for a sweater or jacket. November has also acceptable weather in Israel. So again, you can see here just a couple of drops, and now we're getting into the cold season. Just like it showed, we've been studying so far, and the scriptures are going to prove this, right? So we can see that in this chart here, which is from the land of Israel, the daylight hours, and this is what we count. I made this chart here just to show the temperatures, the amount of days and the equivalencies of the months, and also the amount of hours. And you could see that, when it comes to, let's even look at the early rains, the darkest time of the year is November, December, and January. And that's even in the solar seasons, because 10 plus 10 is 20, plus another 10 is 30, plus the 1, 11 is 31. Then we got 11, 12, and 13. So we can see what right off the bat, it's increasing, right? So the increase is here, and then it gets mega when it comes up to the summertime and goes down again. And when you add up all of these numbers and you divide them by 12 months, because there's 12 months, 144 divided by 12 gives you 12. And this is what Messiah meant when he said,
Other than 12 hours in a day.
112 hours in a day. All over the earth, there are 12 hours of daylight throughout the year on average. So average means you do what we're doing here. You take the hours of daylight in spring and summer and autumn and winter, you add them all up and you divide them by 12, and it'll always give you 12. If you go to Antarctica, North Pole, those are the extremities. And when it's 6 months of almost darkness and 6 months of almost light, all light, again, you add up all the sunrise times there, it's going to come to 12 as well. So it doesn't matter where you go on this earth, there's always going to be 12 hours in the daylight. You understand?
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into the winter season. This is really important. We're going to look at the geography and climate of Israel as we continue. We're learning that the rains start in November. Now, I know what that went by pretty quick, if you're going to do all the reading, but the main part of that read there was that, what did it say? That from May to October, there's no rain. So when November comes, they love the rain. And that's very important to know. But let's continue, move on. We're looking at some more precipitation averages, right? Look at from May in the red here, from May to October, again, barely any rain. Then once November shows up, we got lots of rain going through the rest of the year, right until April. You can read that, brother.
In Israel, January is the coldest month, and July and August are the hottest months on average across the country. Most of the average rainfall in Israel falls between November and April. May through to mid-October are usually rainless.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you hear me repeating that a lot because that's what we want you to understand. See, if you know when summer starts and it's in May and it ends in October, and that's a 6-month period, and you divide that in half, it'll let you know when autumn starts. And if you know when November, if you know that November is when the rain starts and it's for 6 months and it ends in April, that's going to let you know when, after the first 3 months, when that latter rain is going to start. So all you're going to need to do is know when summer and winter actually scripturally and in the land of Israel start, and then just count 3 months in and 3 months out. Again, we're counting, and you'll have a perfect understanding of where the seasons are and when the year begins. And this is what I want to really get to. Brother, you have anything to add?
No, I mean, Right now, the information is very clear. I just hope the brothers and sisters understand this information and that it's clear.
All right. Let's read something about the 6-month rainy season now, or winter rain season.
The 6-month winter season begins in the 10th month Tebeth, which is equivalent to November, and ends 6 months later in the 3rd month Sivan, which is equivalent to April. It's a total of 6 months. The first 3 months are called the early rains. The first rains, the former rains, or the winter rains. The early rains begin in the 10th month Tebeth, which is equivalent to November, and end in the 12th month Adar, which is equivalent to January. It's a total of 3 months. The last 3 months are called the latter rains, the second rains, or the spring rains. The latter rains begin in the 1st month Abib, which is equivalent to February, and end in the 3rd month Sivan, which is equivalent to April. It's a total of 3 months.
Okay. Let's read about the rains.
The rains in the land of Israel. Deuteronomy chapter 11. But the land whither ye goest to possess it is a land of hills and valleys, and drinketh water of the rain of heaven. Verse 12. A land which Jahdael careth for, and the eyes of Jahdael are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even unto the end of the year. And it shall come to pass, if ye shall hearken diligently unto my commandments which I command you this day, to love Jah your El and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give you the rain of your land in his due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thine oil.
Okay. So this information here in the verse that we're getting from, this is confirming why we use the land of Israel, because that's the land that he brought them into.
That's
now you
right.
might say to yourself, but they broke his commandments. But guess what? The Most High says he always has a light, a remnant. Even if it was two or one person, there's going to be a light and remnant who is always, truth is always going to be carried through. It's not going to be completely washed away. But nonetheless, his eyes are still upon that land, and the land, the climate of that land has not changed over the last 2,000 to 3,000 years, they've said, at all. Even before that, it hasn't changed, but there's no records to show before that.
Mm-hmm.
So notice that he says he's giving the rain. He calls it the first rain and the latter rain. That could be the early rains as well. Notice it's in its due season, right? And he says it's from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And this is, again, to me, very clear. He's talking about his calendar, right? From Abib to Adar. Let's get another confirmation about some rains.
In the Compact Bible Dictionary on page 488, under the heading Rain, it says, in Palestine, the rainy season extends from October to April, the dry season from May to October. The early rain occurs in October and November. The latter rain in March and April. Crops are therefore planted so that they will grow during the rainy season.
Okay, so this is, again, a quote. But what I think is important for you all is if you screenshot this as well, because you want these verses. Right? We've covered a lot of these verses in these lessons, but I'm not going to be reading them all. But if you read them, they'll give you a good understanding about these seasons, the latter rains and the early rains, and how it works. Again, it goes from October to April for the rains, which we know is from November, and it's the dry seasons from May to October. Remember, it says it comes in its due season. This is important.
Leviticus 26, verse 4. Then I will give you rain in due season, and the land shall yield her increase, and the trees of the field shall yield their fruit. Deuteronomy 28, verse 12. Jah shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven, to give the rain unto thy land in his due season, and to bless all the works of thine hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow.
And this, you made a little slight error. It doesn't say due season here, but that's okay.
Oh, yes.
But it's still proper. His season, his due season, in due season is his season. Same way, brother. Again, meaning that there's an appointed time, a moed for the rains. There's a moed for the rains, and there's a moed for the summer. Moed means appointed time, right? For the season. And the word moed, again, translates as season. So we can see, again, that understanding, but it has to come at an appointed time. And the Most High has told us that he does things according to his schedule. let's get into some information about what these rains are also called. We know that was called the first rain and the latter rain.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hosea chapter 6, verse 3. Then shall we know, if we follow on to know Jah, his going forth is prepared as the morning, and he shall come unto us as the rain, as the latter and former rain unto the earth. James chapter 5, verse 7. Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the master. Behold, the husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth, and hath long patience for it, until he receive the early and latter rain.
Okay, so again, just want to make sure we understand. I'd like to make sure the communication is right. We have, when we're going back into the main verse, we have the word first rain for early rain or former, and latter rain remains the same. We have the early and latter rain. We have the latter and former rain. So again, just so you know, former, early, and first are the same. Latter stays the same as well. So we have the 3-month early rains or winter rain season. And there's a reason why I call it the early rains, the winter rains, and the 3-month latter rain or spring rain season. And there's a reason why it's called the spring rain season. So again, the solstice and equinoxes are in the middle. This is going from the 10th month November to the end of April. So 10th month Tibet equals November and Savan equals April. We look at the definition of the word early rain, first or former rain. First rain, former, early rain, or what? Autumn shower. They'll call it rain which falls in Palestine from late October until early December, right? So when they're just giving you a little bit of information. They don't know exactly when it ends, obviously, but they're letting us know that it is late October, right? That way, it says sprinkling, autumn showers, first rain, or former rain. And they call it, again, that autumn showers because it's just right at the end of October, as we keep saying that, at the end, the last maybe 10 days or so of October, it rains. So again, this is the 3-month early rain season or winter rains from November to the end of January. This is why we're almost up. This is the definition for latter rain. The latter rain, also called what?
Spring rain.
They call it the March and April rains, which mature the crops of Palestine. But these, again, they don't know when it starts. It starts properly at February. And it'll show you that the latter rain in the scriptures, that the latter rain begins in the first month, and the first month is February. I mean, just think about it, what we know so far, right, family? If you knew, I want you to think, we're teaching the 6-month season. So if the latter rain was 3 months long, and it is, and it started in March or April, let's say it started in March, then we'd have March is the first month of the latter rain, April is the second month, and then we'd have May as that third month of the latter rain. But we know that May can't be rain.
That's right.
Rain can't be rain.
That's right.
It goes to April. May is completely dry. So again, let's do the count. March, April, May. Boy. And if you wanted to even begin it in April, April, May, June, that's kind of off.
Wow.
So
March, spring can't begin in March or April. It has to begin in February.
That's right. It has to, in order for it to be correct to the 3 months. That's right. Again, spring rain, latter rain. This is the spring rain, or what we call spring, beginning from February. ABIB equals February to Savan equals April, the last 3 months. Go ahead, brother.
Winter in Israel. Weather in Jerusalem in the winter is a bit less predictable than in the summer. The wet season starts in November and goes through to April. Song of Solomon chapter 2 verse 11. For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. The flowers appear on the earth, the time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land.
Okay, so when we take a look at this verse here, notice that it's linking the winter and the rain. So again, when we get out of our North American, blinders, as I call them, we can know that winter just means the rainy season. Now,
That's
does it
right.
snow? Does it snow in Israel? Oh yeah, Mount Hermon in the higher altitudes, you'll get snow, and from time to time you'll get snow in Jerusalem. I mean, they even got snow. What was it in Texas and everything this year? Things are going kind of weird when it comes to weather, but the climate remains the same. Winter, rain is over, and then of course that means when the rain is over is in April. And I always like to say this, but the April showers bring May flowers, or bring summer flowers, right?
That's right.
So the whole point here is looking at this word winter, right? And when I looked it up, it's Sethav, and it deals with winter or the what? Rainy season. But then, as also, remember, we're talking about 1 year and how the year is summer and winter. What does it say down here at the bottom, brother?
The dark season.
That's right. So when we're looking at that as the dark season, again, it's just reminding us again about that day and night metaphor, or what do you want to call it? Comparison, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that the nighttime is like the dark season, is like equivalent to night, and it's cooler. So again, Setav means winter or rainy season. Looking at our charts again, in the orange, we have our latter rains. Then we have the summer, and after the summer is done, the first rains come up, the early or the former rains come up. That's in the yellow.
Acts chapter 27, verse 9. Now when much time was spent, and when sailing was now dangerous, but the fast was now already past, Paul admonished them, verse 12. And because the haven was not commodious to winter in, the more part advised to depart thence also, if by any means they might attain to Phoenice, and there to winter. Acts chapter 28, verse 2. And the barbarous people showed us no little kindness, for they kindled a fire and received us every one because of the rain, because of the present rain, and because of the cold. And after 3 months, we departed in a ship of Alexandria, which had wintered in the isle, whose sign was Castor and Pollux.
Okay, so taking a look here, I like this verse to give us something. It's letting us know something about the fast, right? It says the fast. When does the fast occur?
In the 7th month.
That's right. And so the 7th month, which is the beginning of autumn, they were looking for somewhere to winter in, meaning they want to go somewhere to winter, to stay in, because that's the time of the rains. And it's not good to be sailing during the rainy season, right?
That's right.
At all. So they're looking for a place to winter. And it says they went to, when they got to a place, they were showed great love. Even though it says no little kindness, that's one thing I like about the whole English sometimes, meaning that they were shown a lot of love. That's right. No little kindness. That means there was a lot of kindness. But if you don't kind of understand Old English, it might seem like, did they treat them mean? They didn't give them not even a little kindness, but it's a lot, to be honest. And we see here again, it's the rain. We see it's coming cold. And how long did they stay there for?
After 3 months.
That's right. So it didn't start in autumn, but if we look at here, this is where the fast is, over here. And as they're sailing, they're looking for a place to, find a place to settle down. And when you look at these verses, it starts from Acts chapter 27, and then the story continues through to Acts chapter 28. And there's a lot of reading in between, letting you know that time has been passing by. But when they decided to find a place to winter, they stayed there for how long again?
3 months.
It says remember what it says, because of the rain and the cold. So we have rain, cold, and winter. And we have the fast as well, giving us a lot of information. Here's the fast. They're cooling out. They're sailing, trying to find a place where they can settle down. They find it. They stay for 3 months, the cold, rainy winter time. From the month Tebeth equals November to Adar equals January. Wow, I like this as well, So here again, Israel's main official averages of whether you're talking about temperatures, you're talking about the daylight or the sunlight hours, whether you're talking about the measurement of rain or the amount of days it rained as well. I've had this chart for years, and we've made this chart exclusive. Did you want to say something, brother?
No, this is a lot of information packed into one chart.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we have from ABIB February going all the way through to Adar January, color coding with our rains and our summertime from May, winter beginning from November, reminding ourselves that the equinoxes and solstices are the middle of the seasons, not the beginning. Because, I mean, let's think about it. All right, we're learning about these seasons. If it's, as we were talking about, when it said March before was the beginning of the rain, if it was for 3 months, March, April, and May can't work, right? April, May, and June can't work for those 3 months at all. But February, March, and April is a perfect 3 months. And as winter begins in November, which is equivalent to 10th month to Beth, this is letting us know again, 10, 11, 12, that this is the early rains. This is the middle. And when it gets back to it, again, remember the charts were showing that, remember, the astronomical calendar begins their springtime in March. And that means they're going to be beginning their winter rains in December. And if it was December was the beginning of the winter time for 6 months, you have December 1, January 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That'll be the 6 months of rain. But we know that May has no rain. So it has to start from here. All right, let's get into the scriptural confirmation of all of this now. So as the rainy season starts to begin at the end of the 9th month. And what did we say the 9th month is equivalent to, brother?
Kislev.
Kislev, right? And October. Kislev, October. That's right. Go ahead.
Book of Ezra, chapter 10, verse 9. Then all the men of Jehudah and Benjamin gathered themselves together unto Jerusalem within 3 days. It was the 9th month, on the 20th day of the month, and all the people sat in the street of the house of El, trembling because of this matter, and for the great rain.
So we see here we have the 20th day of the 9th month, right? 10 days before the month ends. And they're trembling because of, this problem that they had. They're in Jerusalem. They gathered themselves. And what does it say about this? It's a what rain?
The great rain.
Because that's when the rains start at the end of the 9th month, October. We've been listening to that all day today, right?
That's right. Verse 13. But the people are many, and it is a time of much rain.
How much rain?
It says much rain.
It's a time of it, right?
That's right.
This is the early rains, right?
The beginning of the early rains.
Mm-hmm.
And we are not able to stand outside, neither is this a work of 1 day or 2, for we are many that have transgressed in this thing.
See, so they came into the city, they gathered themselves, but because now it started to rain and everything, it's causing a problem and they're not able to be outside. And it's not a small work. This was like 3 months it took.
That's right.
So here we have the 20th. It was the 9th month on the 20th day of the 9th month. Here's Kislev, equivalent to October. This is when now it's beginning to rain, right? And then we're going to read in Ezra chapter 10 that they sat down on the first day of the what? 10th month. And they made an end by the first day of the first month. You understand?
Mm.
And this is in Ezra chapter 10. Later on, you see it's in 10 here. It's later on in verse 16. So this is the first day of the 10th month because they gathered here. They said, hey, you know what? We can't do this. Re-te-te. So they said, all right, cool. They waited a little bit. Maybe they kept the Feast of Dedication. They come here. They say, okay, we're going to start this. They sit down on the first day of the 10th month. They have all the people come towards them. They go through all the months, and then they make an end of it by the first day of the first month. So this is months 10, 11, and 12. And I just put it here to be the last day of that 3-month period. And then we go to, again, this first day of, actually, read this for me, brother.
Yes, Book of Ezra, chapter 10, verse 16. And the children of the captivity did so, and Ezra the priest with certain chief of the fathers, after the house of their fathers, and all of them by their names were separated and sat down in the first day of the 10th month to examine the matter. And they made an end with all the men that had taken strange wives by the first day of the first month.
All right. So again, let's go back. The first day of the 10th month, following through from the 9th. This chart is a continuation. This is the first day of the 10th month, going through to the end of the first day of the 12th month, because after that is the first day of the first month. So if you want to look at it, let's look at it again. Ezra sat down in the first day of the 10th month. This is the 10th month equals November up here. And they made an end of it by the first day of the first month. And then down, so we got 1, 2, 3, and then we got the first day of the first month right here, which is ABIB equals February. So he begins during the early rains, the first rains, and he ends off at the beginning of the latter rains.
That's right. So it took them a whole 3 months to settle the matter.
Yep, 1, 2, 3. Go ahead.
And that 3 months happens to be the full 3 months of the early rains.
That's right. That's right.
Right up until the beginning of the first day of the first month, which begins the 3-month latter rain season.
That's right. And again, our solstices and equinoxes are the middle. But let's confirm something now greatly. How do we know that the latter rains, and this is a beautiful verse. How do you know that the latter rains start in the first month? Can we prove that by the Bible? And of course, with God's mercy and will and great wisdom, we can. So here again is the 3-month latter rains or spring rain. It says here the title is the latter rains start in the first month. Scripture.
Book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 23. Be glad, ye children of Zion, and rejoice in Jair-El, for he hath given you the former rain moderately, and he will cause to come down for you the rain, the former rain and the latter rain in the first month.
When does the latter rain begin?
In the first month.
That's right. This is very important. So we have the former rain, the first rain, the early rains that begin in November, end of October, November, Tibet, the 10th month. And then we have the latter rains that begin in the first month. And if it's the latter rains beginning in the first month, that first month, it has to be for three months, right? So the latter rain is for 3 months. We have 1, 2, 3. We have 6 in total. We have the first early 3 months, and then we have the last 3 months. The last rains, we know, we're saying latter rains. And notice again, very clearly, it goes from February, March, and April. But let's say you wanted to begin the first month, Abib Nisan, somewhere at the end of March. Because remember, it's just the equinox they do. It's still looking for a new moon nearest that equinox. And sometimes it starts in April the 4th or the 5th. And you're going to call that the beginning of the year or the first month. I mean, again, you can't look at March as the first month, because March, April, and then May would have to be included in that latter range. And you can't include that because May is completely dry. And then if your first month even began in April, which it does sometimes. Yeah, that thing about when people talk about the April Fool's thing and they try to show it deals with January. There's a lot of trickery going on, you know. I ain't calling nobody a fool, but, you know, people want to begin anything in April, they're fooled that way outside of the Feast of Pentecost. So we have these 3 months. So again, it can't be. Just think about it. Use your wisdom. We're not talking anything else. We've just discovered already these months here, and that it's, you know, the latter rain starts in November or October, starting officially in November, going through for 6 months. And we have our scripture to confirm that the latter rains begin in the first month. And that, to me, exposes any other calendar.
That's right. Clearly does.
You can't.
Clearly does.
If you want to start your latter rain in any other month, you can't even start the latter rain in January, because you would still need the other. You would need April, because April is still a part of the rainy season.
That's right.
It can only work. Go ahead, brother.
This shows us clearly that the latter rain season has to and must begin in the first month, which we know is February.
That's right. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. You could only just, you know, basically not believe it. Sorry, I'm going to look in the comments section here.
Yeah. And the problem with these other Israelite groups who claim to have the true calendar is that they don't consider the rainy seasons.
That's right.
They don't consider the rainy seasons at all in the land of Israel. All they're concerned is lunar cycles and when the month begins by the lunar phases. They do not consider when the rainy seasons and dry seasons begin and end. And this is where they go wrong.
Exactly, brother. Go ahead.
Latter rains and the first month. 1 Chronicles chapter 12, verse 15. These are they that went over Jordan in the first month, when it had overflown all his banks. Book of Joshua 3, verse 15. The ark were dipped in the brim of water, for Jordan overfloweth all his banks all the time of the harvest. Joshua 4, verse 18. That the waters of Jordan returned unto their place, and flowed over all his banks as they did before. And the people came up out of Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and encamped in Gilgal on the east side, on the east border of Jericho.
Okay. So what we're looking at here is that we know that Jordan begins overflowing all his banks in the first month. But why is he overflowing his banks in the first month?
Because of the latter rains.
The latter rains, which are a little bit heavier rains, they're on the scene. You understand? So we see that the first month, ABIB, it overflows his banks. And what does it say? It says Jordan overflows his banks. What? All his banks.
All the time of harvest.
That's right. That all the time of harvest is the first 3 months of the year. We're going to prove it. And again, it says when the waters returned and flowed over, because the waters receded so they can walk over the river. And this, again, we get confirmation that this was the 10th day of the first month. So a lot of waters, and this is one thing as a fact, Jordan overflows its banks during, well, all the season from November. It can go right through to April, but February and November are the beginnings of when the Jordan rivers will overflow, and it goes up and down. And again, these are just perfect truths with the land of Israel.
That's right.
So it says he overflows all his banks all the time of harvest. And this is harvest. This is wheat harvest begins on the 22nd.
Barley harvest.
Barley harvest, begins on the 22nd, going all the way through. Wheat harvest begins on the 12th day, or the day after the 12th day, let's say, for wheat. Remember, it said the appointed weeks of, oh no, it doesn't say here. Say here. Here's the scripture for it. I want to let you know that this is the sheaf, and when we count to Pentecost the correct way, we did this last week. It brings us to the Feast of Pentecost. These are the appointed feasts, appointed weeks of harvest, and are the latter rains, specifically the 7 Sabbaths to Pentecost, or the first fruits. So notice it says the appointed weeks. Take note here in Jeremiah.
Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 24. Neither say they in their heart, let us now fear Jah our El, that giveth rain, both the former and the latter in his season. He reserveth unto us the appointed weeks of the harvest.
All right. These are the appointed weeks. This is the only time that Jah tell you to number your weeks or count Sabbaths. This is the beginning right here of the harvest, and it goes through. And still the rainy season continues more, but we got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, like I said before, 12 weeks. Whoa, that number is perfect. 12 weeks of 12 Sabbaths of harvest.
Yes.
So again, this should be a confirmation again, letting you know when does it say it rains? All for Jordan overflows all his banks all the time of harvest. Right? That's the same thing here we're talking about. Continue.
Proverbs 25, verse 13. As the cold of snow in the time of harvest, so is a faithful messenger to them that send him, for he refresheth the soul of his masters.
All right. So we know that snow can come during harvest time, right? Because it's a part of the rains.
That's right.
And that's what we want to make sure we understand, that it's a good thing, right? When it snows, even where you are in North America, that's rain, that's precipitation. When it melts, it doesn't go, it goes into the ground, and some evaporates, as you know. But the rain is watering the grass and the ground. Same way when it comes to snow.
That's right. In the colder climates where we obviously live, those rains are going to be snow and ice, because it's just more colder over here compared to warmer climates. They're just going to have rain.
That's right. So when we look at Jah's almanac on a different level, Jah's 64-day, 12-month common year, and the Gregorian 12 months, again, ABIB equals February. You see, it goes, we're in color codes again. Summertime begins in May, ends October. Winter, the early rains begins in November, goes through. Adar is the coldest month of the year because it's the last month of the year. We have our latter rains. You saw a chart like this already. We have spring harvest, summer harvest, autumn ingathering, and winter seed time. All of this is according to the Holy Scriptures. We have our days for the seasons everywhere. Praise Jah.
Praise Jah.
And again, reminding ourselves that the equinoxes and solstices are the middle. It couldn't be. This lesson is showing you that it can't be. It can't be the beginning, because of the end of March 21st is the beginning of the year, and then you want to talk about the latter rains begins March 21st. That's practically 10 days away from April. So again, you'd have April, May, you'd have your rainy season going on to June, which it can't do because it doesn't exist that way.
That's right. Once again, the seasons are not dictated by the lunar phases, right? Mm-hmm. All these other Hebrew Israelite groups are failing to realize that they're not in tune with the rainy seasons of the land of Israel. And once you understand when the rainy seasons begin and end, you can see clearly when the beginning of the year now begins and ends.
That's right.
And it's very clear now to us that you cannot begin the year in March or April. It has to be in February.
That's right. Remember, they begin this stuff equinox. So this is their first month, where we call it second, and we go through again, all erroneous. So as we end now, what's happening is that we're going to see that everybody's using Jeroboam's calendar. And I just got a couple of slides here to show this very quickly, because it's an easy thing to show after we've been doing it for so many times. But this Jeroboam calendar, it shows you, what's good about this is it gives you the information from the Holy Bible, the switch that the devil made that everybody's following now. And it began in Israel with Jeroboam. He switched the calendar, it says. He switched the festivals and made Israel sin. And it was a great sin that many kings had followed. And people are still using the Jeroboam, Egyptian, Babylonian, lunar solar calendar today.
That's right.
And that's just what it has to be exposed. Even if it's Israelites, there was Israelites who knew the true times, who went to Jerusalem and kept the true festivals and seasons. And then there were the 10 tribes of Israelites that went and did Jeroboam's way. It was only Benjamin and Judah that kept the true calendar and almanac. And that's why, when it comes to the festivals of the Most High, it's in the New Testament, it's called the Jews' festival, or the festival of the Jews, not just Israel in general, but of Judah, because it was different from Israel's festivals, right? There's a difference in understanding that way.
That's right.
Scripture.
1 Kings 12, verse 31. And he, Jeroboam, made a house of high places, and made priests of the lowest of the people, which were not of the sons of Levi. And Jeroboam ordained a feast in the 8th month, on the 15th day of the month, like unto the feast that is in Judah, and he offered upon the altar. So did he in Bethel, sacrificing unto the calves that he had made. And he placed in Bethel priests of the high places which he has made. So he offered upon the altar which he had made in Bethel the 15th day of the 8th month, even in the month which he had devised of his own heart, and ordained a feast unto the children of Israel, and he offered upon the altar the burnt incense.
Yes. So this is very crucial, because this is right here today. Jeroboam, this incident and history repeats itself or carries on through. We are right here.
He did a great evil in the sight of Jah.
Great. Because all of Israel is sin. So when we have false calendars, just think about it. There's people in the world, Israelites or Christians or whoever they want, they know about calendars and want to keep the scriptural festivals. They'll all say the Gregorian calendar is pagan and it's false. So just in that statement and understanding should let you know, who think that, and they're actually right, that the Gregorian calendar is false and pagan, how we can say same way that these lunar calendars and lunisolar time frames are false as well, because we can see outside of it and we know that it's pagan. So the same way that you're going to call the Gregorian pagan is the same way that the Babylonian lunar calendar, because that's what it is. The lunar calendar that starts at the new moon near the spring equinox is the Babylonian calendar. And I want to emphasize that. We might have to emphasize that hardcore more. It's not
Yep.
a Hebrew calendar. It was never given to them by the Most High at all. He never commanded them to look at no lunar months, no lunar Sabbaths. He never talked about no equinox and all of those kind of things. They existed, but he would never give that to the children of Israel. They followed this calendar here. And when you look at what's going on here, he's copying the feast that's in Judah, which is the Feast of Tabernacles in the 7th month. And he's doing it in the 8th month on the 15th day. And because we can see that he devises of his own heart, we know where he got this information from, because he spent some years living in Egypt, in the kingdom too. It wasn't like he just stayed in a place in Egypt. He was a part of the government, because he was a very smart man and he knew calendars and he was very industrious. And this is why he was able, with counsel as well, to devise a calendar. And what he did is he shifted it from the 7th month over to the 8th month. And even though he shifted that feast over that way, it was also a main calendar shift as well. And I want to show you what I mean by that. So we know that the 7th month is when you keep the Feast of Tabernacles, right? 15th day at evening, it started. And then what he did is that the 8th month, he started a festival that way as well. It wasn't like Tabernacles. It didn't start on the first day of the week. But notice this 15th also is where, at times, almost every year, you're going to have the autumn equinox lining up with it.
Mm-hmm.
This 15th day of the 8th month is actually mid-autumn, because the middle of Jah's months are always going to be 15 or 16. So the middle of spring, according to Jah's almanac perfectly, is the 15th of the 2nd month. It'll be the 15th, middle of summer in the 5th month, the 15th, the middle of autumn in the 8th month, and the 15th, you can't see it there, but it's covered, but of December. That would be the middle part of the month, and that's the time when the equinoxes and solstices have their movement around.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives you an idea to see what Jeroboam did. He shifted the whole calendar.
Wow, it's a very wicked thing that he did. You can see just by shifting the feasts that were supposed to be kept in the 7th month to the 8th month, that in turn, he shifted the entire calendar over 1 month. So now, instead of the year beginning in ABIB or in the month of February, now you have the year beginning of 1 month later.
That's right, brother.
And now all the feasts being kept instead of the 1st month, you have the feast being kept from the 2nd month, and so on.
That's right. And this is what this chart shows. We have our seasons, the true order, the Gregorian month, the month names, and in the red is the false calendar. So we know that our 1st month is February, equivalent to ABIB, right? But that's what they call the 12th month on their astronomical calendar, because remember, they begin at the spring equinox, and that's their month 1. And as David was saying, you see the shift from ABIB. He shifted it from ABIB, the 1st month, to this. They shifted it to the 2nd month, right? And then called it the 1st month. So he shifts it,
right.
And he says, hey, instead of the calling the 2nd month, this is the 1st month. And then when we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, is like, hey, let's keep our tabernacles, right? It's the 7th month. But really, when you go over, it's the 8th month. So he ordains this false feast on the 15th day of the 8th month, but people think that this 8th month is the 7th month today.
That's
but
right.
This September is actually the 8th month. We've kept the festival and the fast and all of those things in August, Ethanim, right? That way. And they say that's the 6th month, but it's the 7th month. So
Wow.
It's shift. You can see the shift right here, where he lined up everything with the equinox and solstices. Because when he went from the 7th month to the 8th month, he lines it up with this equinox. And then when you go back, he's lining up everything with the equinox, the beginning of the year, back on spring equinox now.
Mm-hmm.
And they call it Nisan, but it is Nisan. It's not ABIB. So again, you can see very clearly what has happened here.
Yep. And you can see how this became a great sin to Israel, because now you have the children of Israel keeping all the feast days that were supposed to be holy to Jah on the wrong days of the year.
That's right. So as we started in the beginning, remember, we started in the beginning with this shift. February the 1st. And what did my guy do, Jeroboam? He shifted the calendar over. So now when people of the world keep their tabernacles and atonement, and they think they're doing it in the 7th month because sept means 7. That's the trick there, but it's really the 8th month, and he's keeping a false feast. It's lining up with the equinoxes and causing the Israelites and people who want to believe in the Messiah and celebrate the festivals today to always be off with the beginning of the year, the seasons, and of course that means that the festivals and holy days are going to be off as well.
That's right.
And if you want to look at it, how it might look, spring begins in February, mid-spring. Summer begins in May, as we've been hearing all day long. Winter begins in November, right? August is autumn. The middle point are the equinoxes and solstices. They're not the beginning. Even the Irish calendar and seasons as well. What they follow, they know about these things as well. Winter begins November 1st. Spring begins February 1st. Today would be the beginning. Summer begins May 1st, and autumn begins August 1st. Right? And their end dates, they deal with these end dates. And this is where you get the idea, Sunday is Groundhog's Day. And they talk about, well, is it going to be the beginning of spring for 6 weeks or not? But what the trick is and understanding is, yes, the fact that the groundhog even comes out of hibernation in February, of which it does, because it goes into hibernation on November, and it comes out, actually, all the animals, they go in hibernation and they come out, and if it's too cold and things aren't looking good, then they go back to sleep for like a month or two. So when this groundhog comes out in February, because it hibernates in November for 3 months of the early rains, and then it comes out the beginning of the latter rain season, or we call spring, it's coming out. And when they add in the folklore about seeing a shadow or not, they're just saying if it's a sunny day, then it means it's going to be cold for the rest of the next 6 weeks. But if it's a cloudy day and it's, not looking too good, then that's going to be a good sign that the weather's going to nicen up in the next few days. So that's, again, a part of an understanding that even Groundhog's Day, as the beginning of spring, although it's a pagan thing, they know the true beginnings. The same thing with Valentine's. That's why they give you flowers at that time, because it's an ancient festival of spring called Lupercalia, which they start in February. The word February means month of purification too. It's when the ancients would clean their homes for spring cleaning.
That's right. So you can see that Jah programmed his creatures and his animals to hibernate during the time of winter, and when they wake up, their bodies are programmed to wake up during the beginning of the new season.
That's right. I mean, brother, even today, I haven't heard birds, for a while. And this morning I went out, outside just to take a look. And when I mean the chirping of birds, the signs are greatly there. And even though it's going to be still cold, it might be snowy where we are, I want you to pay great attention to the amount of sunlight that's going to increase from, especially beginning next week, but you could even start from now, looking at this month of February as it increases until May. It's the biggest increase of sunlight throughout the whole year, right? The fastest and the most. It increases maybe about 2 hours, some places an hour and a half, some places 3 hours, in an hour each month. And so you're going to get in the month of ABIB or February, where we're going to finally have the sunrise, a little bit before 7 o'clock, because now it's after 7. So as we finish off most of the information, but here's our references. The midsummer definition, as it calls the middle or height of summer, but it's also the name for the summer solstice. Right? And just knowing these things, if it's the name of the summer solstice and the height, the summer solstice begins right here, the summer solstice, right? And if that's supposed to be the beginning of summer, yet it just said it's the middle of summer, it's perfect. It's not the beginning. It's the beginning of astronomical summer, but it says here, it's the height of summer, the middle of summer.
That's right.
I'm not going to read this. I'm going to say that for next week. So again, these are all the shifts. I think I can say praise John Jehoshua for these calendars. Seem to be working out. I'm thankful that John has kind of given me the energy to work on these things. But as you can see with these seasons, ABIB in the blue going all the way across, and then Nisan or March is when they begin their false new year. It's starting in the middle of spring, going through. Summer solstice, that's when they start summer, but summer, that's the middle of summer. Autumn equinox going through, that's when they start their autumn, Tisri, and the world too. Midwinter, they're going to start it in December, especially December 21st. So here you can see side by side how their calendar is off from the true calendar, which we just covered from the land of Israel in climate-wise and the Holy Bible. That's, to me, this is like, there should be like a party. There should be a celebration for these things, which is going to actually start next week. Although this is a troubling year, but we're going to celebrate in Jah in these great things. I have to say that, this is information that cannot be refuted. This is positive proof that anybody who starts any calendar in March or April is dealing with a false satanic calendar. And may we repent, study and learn and come out of it, because that's not the Most High's holy festival times at all. They're the devil's times.
That's
That's
right.
why he has the heathens celebrating them as well. Go ahead, brother.
No, that's right. This information is very true. It's irrefutable. And to all the Israelite camps and brothers and sisters who want to keep the festivals on the correct days, you must understand and become familiar and acquainted with the rainy seasons of the land of Israel. And that will begin to open your eyes and give you the understanding that the beginning of the year cannot begin in March or April, and you do not need to use lunar cycles or to understand when the phases of the moon begin or end to determine when the year begins or end, or keep any of Jah's holy days.
That's right, brother. That's right. Well, all we can say is all praise, glory, and honor to Jah, Yah, our Father, the Ancient of Days, and His only begotten Son, Jehoshua the Messiah, who was a Nazarite. The black man was a Nazarite, also known as Yehoshua, Yahusha, Yahawashai, Yahshua, Yeshua, the Messiah, HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. All praise and glory to Jah the Father and His Son, Jehoshua the Messiah. For knowledge, wisdom, and understanding comes from Him. He's the one who gives to those, who seek Him and thirst for righteousness and want to be cleaned. And that's what we're seeking, righteousness and love. And we do so through the Messiah, to the Father's glory. Praise Jah.
Praise Jah and His Son Joshua.
Again, one love to all. Have a blessed and excellent week. Stay strong. It's the last week of the year. And next Sabbath is the last Sabbath of the year. And then that evening, that first day of the week, is the beginning of the true scriptural season. So stay strong. Prepare your mind if you're keeping the Passover. Examine yourself to see if you're a part of this faith. Do a little bit of cleansing. Springtime is spring cleaning. And as you know, we have to get the leaven out of our homes as well. And we'll talk about that as we begin next week and go into the new year. Praise Jah. First of all, I want to say thank you to Brother Javid. Always, for being a good friend, as well as, helping in this understanding, for he knows everything that I know as well, even though I'm the main guy who kind of talks. Javid knows everything that I know, and he's actually a better speaker than I am. But, we just go with the movements of how Jah laid things down. And I'm very thankful for you, Brother Javid and David, and I pray that Jah always continue to strengthen you and carry you through, because there are better days ahead for us. And to Design Assembly family, one love to you as well. Auntie Alma, Mama Greg, Charmaine, and Rhymes, John, Carice, my family, Monroe's, children, them. Love you guys seriously, and we got to draw closer to Jah. Time is getting close, and this was a sorrowful year for us. In our family, we had lost a family member, and so as we move through and carry this loss and burden and sorrow with us, we lay it at the Messiah's feet. We give it to Him to be able to carry on, because it's tough, very hard, very, very hard. But I'm thankful to Jah, and may Jah strengthen all of us who know about this sad situation.
Yes. We'll give thanks, Brother Sean, for all your support and strength and guidance, and to all the brethren and sistren, to the Zion Assembly. It has been a challenging year, but Jah in our weakness gives us strength. And
Yes.
so I pray that Jah can continue to give us strength to move and teach Jah's children about Jah's calendar and many other wonderful truths that he's revealed unto us. And may he strengthen us despite what the devil might try and do to us and throw in our way to stop us from this labor that Jah's put in our hands. May Jah strengthen all of us from the greatest unto the least. And may Jah give us his spirit, because we need it. We need our faith to be increased more and more. And we need strength to overcome the wiles of the devil.
That's right, brother. Well said. Have a great week, everyone. Fight the good fight. And with Jah's will, we'll see you next Sabbath, Shabbat.
Yes.
Praise Jah.
Have a blessed week, everyone.
All right.
I'm out.
Okay, brother. Okay, well, I'm going to be out too, unless there's any comments or questions. If you're just joining in now, this was a lesson packed with information, not just information thrown at you, but breakdowns of understanding the true calendar. I don't think it could be any more clearer and straight than that. I'm also going to put in the video that I made. Now that you know this almanac, the video is going to make so much more sense. My wife did find one error in there. Share. Yeah, here's the video. 12 minutes long, but it covered everything that we spoke of today in 12 minutes, but with the scriptural proof and the proof also from the land of Israel. That's it. That was a lot. All right, family. Well, unless there's anything to say, again, I put that in the chat. You can give it a watch. Well worth the watch. And even if you already know about these things, grab a 12 minutes there. Bless up, one love, and rhymes as well. Shalom.